Hi everyone, we're back. Hope you have enjoyed your pizza. I sure have enjoyed mine, pineapple-less pizza. So before we start our next session with our next speaker, we have another developer dilemma ready for you. So you'll find the link to this developer dilemma in the chat. And please pick one. Every commit goes to production or deploy once every quarter. Jump on in, cast your vote, and meanwhile, we are now welcoming Tom. So, Ramon, can you tell us a bit about Tom?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Raita. Yeah, folks, I am so excited to tell you about our next talk from Tom. Tom here is a published science fiction writer. He's going to tell us about how to use Git and how we communicate with it and how communication ties into the way that we use Git. Now, Tom here, I'm informed, dreams to one day pilot his very own Gundam machine. Now, for those of you who don't watch it, Gundam is an anime show where people pilot giant mecha pieces of armor that fly around space. So I'm very excited to hear about this. And without further ado, Tom, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Ramon. I'm happy to be here today. Yes, we'll be talking today about how to pilot your first Gundam. That's, I think, a very important thing we need to discuss. Actually, I think my phone's going off. Well, actually, I have another problem. A bug report has come in production. And I also saw that the customer was already in our support channel asking, is it you or is it me? So maybe we should look at how to debug this issue instead, because we can make the customer happy and we can make ourselves happy. Everyone will be happy and we will have a more stable system. But as I'm looking at the code, it doesn't really start to make sense to me a lot. I'm asking myself, how should this have even worked in the first place? And that's not a really good thing to wonder when you're debugging something. So I grabbed my trusty tool called Git blame, and let's look at how this code worked, how it was written, why it was written. Because we're out of luck, we don't know. We need some more information here. Okay, no, that's not going to work either. Work in progress, in production. It's no longer in progress, Dave, so this is not going to be helpful either. Strap in, we're going to be here a while. Today, I want to talk about why Git is about communication. I'm Tom de Bruijn, I'm a developer at AppSignal, and I think communication is very important, and I think Git is a very good tool we can use for this. So how does the situation we just ran into happen? How do we get such a bad Git blame? We all know this person, we all know the hacker man, we all know the rock star, the ninja, the 10x engineer. They churn out code, management loves them, they run through the story points and deliver features to customers. It's great, it's all amazing, but we get this kind of commit. And that's just not helpful. But something stands out to me. When I look at this timestamp, I'm starting to wonder, did Dave go to lunch? Maybe his colleagues were already waiting, saying like, hey, we need to leave if we want to make our reservation. And he was just like, work in progress, back it up, push to GitHub, because last time my laptop crashed and I lost all this progress. So never again. But then never went back to the commit and improved it. Git is just not simply a way to get your code to production. It's not Command S with more steps. It's so much more. All right. So communication is important in development because development is not just about typing code. We do like typing code, but we're talking to our users, we're talking to our team, product owner. They all have information about what we should make and what we should focus on, all important things to get right. But a bad Git blame is a breakdown of this communication because we stopped communicating. Nothing is being communicated here. But we do use git blame, right? We've all run into this situation, or did all the bad and useless commits make this pointless? I know we've all been here because we can relate with this situation. We're looking at our code, not even through a git blame. We just open a file and we are wondering who wrote this shit, and then, oh, it's us. So we know the situation, but how can we improve it? Because git blame should not just, it should help us debug. It should not be another source of frustration. It should give us more information and not just make us sigh a lot. So Git is talking to your team. It's talking to yourself from the future because you're using git blame. So tell a story, tell them the information you know now because they might need it in the future. So the source of this problem is bad commits. A measure, a code quality measurement is W2Fs per minute if we just look at the code itself. But if we then run out of knowledge information to figure out why the code works the way it works, we get blame and it's a source of another WTF. So it's just piling on the bad code quality measurement. I'm definitely guilty of this myself. I've written many, many bad commits because just looking at this example from 2017, I'm like, great, Tom, why did you do that? Was it better? What changed? I have to look at the diff now to try and understand my cryptic and incomplete message of what I was trying to do here. So I have a little personal hall of shame here. We all know the work in progress commit. It's abbreviated, of course, because we are in a hurry and we just want to ship the new feature. But we also know fix bug. I'm going to fix a bug. Which one? Figure it out. And then, of course, I need to update the test because while I was fixing that bug, I just broke a whole lot of things. And now I need to push another commit to fix the tests again. So another one I personally dislike is move method. Why did I move it? Was it more aesthetically pleasing in another location? Who knows? Can't tell from the commit anymore. Or this one. Just closes something, an issue. I can't tell if it was a bug or a performance issue or a feature. Can't tell anymore because we used GitHub in the past and we use Jira now, and we no longer have the information in GitHub, so that is just lost to time now. And my least favorite one then finally is the 3 dots. That's just not just a continuation of this list, it's 3 dots. Those commits just all start blurring together, and I've worked with someone who committed this work like this, and it was not fun. But what do all these commits have in common? They're extremely unhelpful, of course. They don't communicate anything. They don't tell us anything. Why was this change made? I don't know. I'm going to have to make some assumptions here because there is no information here. So the problem here is that I now have to make the assumptions, and that can just lead to more bugs because I don't know what I need to consider here, and all this. I might break some other obscure part of the system that I've never worked with, but relies on this code. So you might think to yourself, well, I can just ask the author, right? They might know, or they still know why they wrote the code the way they did. But that's not necessarily the case because they might be out sick, they might be on vacation, or left the company entirely. And then even if they are available, it might be 3 a.m. A critical bug has appeared, and now you have to call them awake to get that information. So if there's any time-sensitive information you need, this is not a great way to do it. So how are we going to go fixing this bug now? We ran into bad git blame, run out of luck there. We now need to figure out what to do, how to fix it. So I start a Slack call or a Zoom call or whatever you use. And I'm going to invite my team members here. They might have worked with this person, Dave, or they have touched this code more recently than I have, and they might know a little bit more about how to fix it. But I do have to stop them from whatever they're doing to pull them out of their work and get them to help me in this problem. But did we figure it out in the end? Awesome, celebration time. We have fixed this bug. It might have taken days. Great. What do we do now? just git commit fix bug, right? And then we just move on. I have another list of bug reports that have come in. I need to pick those up, or that feature has been delayed by all of this. No, we shouldn't make this same mistake, of course, because 3 months from now, we're going to be in the same situation. Some other bug has slipped in. We git blame it, and we're going to have to start from scratch again. We learned a lot in this situation. Like if we debugged it with our team, we now know why the code works the way it does. Let's write that down. So how do we prevent this from happening again? We make better commits. If we look at this just simple command of adding a commit of fix bug, I'll give you a big pro tip of like how to make your commits like 100 or 1,000 times more useful. Git commit actually supports multi-line commits. You don't have to cram everything in the first sentence or the subject as it's called. If we just run git commit without the option, it will open our favorite editor of choice. In my case, that's Vim. And I can just start typing the subject, then add a new line, another new line to begin a paragraph for the description, and just type more the way everything I want to add to this commit. Nothing is going to stop me there. I can add whatever I want. But what do we actually write then? I have a little format for that, and we'll get back to that later. But first, let's move on to another thing I find important to say about commits, is that I think they're part of the documentation of the project. We have, of course, a lot of other different sources for the documentation, like a README. Most projects have those. Maybe there's a wiki with some more advanced guides, or like, oh, you ran into this bug on this system, then you need to fix that. That way, maybe. But there might be a guide, if you're lucky. Might be more step-by-step guides to help you get started. And there probably, or maybe, will be an inline comment, but good luck with that because no one updates those and they're going to be outdated. As developers, there's this idea that writing documentation is not fun. I need to stop whatever I'm doing. I want to ship a feature or fix another bug, and I need to stop what I'm doing to write down all the things I thought about while making this change. And that's just boring. I want to move on and do cool stuff. But on the other hand, if we have no documentation, we're going to be back in that situation, and that's just going to be so much worse. You're going to meet your past self, and you're just going to blame them, being like, oh, no, if only I had done something then. And so documentation, when we are writing it, we need to consider that it's for the people who are not there. It's not just only for me in the future, but also for the team members, or if we have any public docs, for people outside the organization as well. So this can be like a physical, the room in this case can be a physical room or a meeting or a call. We need to, like, if anyone missed this particular discussion, they need to know what's going on. And anyone can write this. It's not rocket science. You can start small and build your way up. You don't have to write a giant novel at the very beginning, but we do want to move towards that. Another time when we are looking at our commits is when we are reviewing pull requests. So we get assigned a pull request, and we put on our reviewer hat, and we are going to review it. But how do we do that? How do we determine what is a good review? How can I leave? How can I make sure that the author is happy with my review and not just, I needed this check mark? Because if I open a pull request and it's just very long, everything blurs together, I'm getting bored. I just approve it, and then the review is worth nothing, basically, because I haven't really looked at the details of the code, like how it works and how it does the way it actually is supposed to be doing. So how can I make this a little better? Well, things I do is I check out the code locally, and I just start poking around in it, try and break it, see if the tests actually do the thing they do. If I comment out an if statement, does the tested if statement actually fail or not? But the problem here is also that it's just, what I'm doing here is testing the code quality. I'm not testing what it's actually doing, because I don't know them, because the commits don't tell me what it should actually do. So how do we know what the change should actually do in this case? Because if it just says fix bug, I want to know what bug it fixed. Tell me. And as a reviewer, I can start asking questions. I can ask the author, like, okay, what is the error you ran into here, or why was this slow? In a way to get more in-depth reviews, get a little bit more knowledge about this problem. But the problem is then we need to ask the author, and the author has moved on. They have started on a new feature or bug, and they need to come back and stop what they were doing before to now explain to me why they did things the way they did. And that can be an hour or two or days later, and then I need to go back and review it again, and I've forgotten what it was about, so I need to read up again. This is just going to take a lot of time, and it shouldn't have to if the information was there at the very start. So how can we make this better? Well, when you send in a pull request for review, make sure that the reviewers have enough context to review it properly. They have the information to know what bug is being fixed and all that stuff. So they can leave more critical reviews because they know what's actually going on. So how do we provide this context? Well, explain the why. Why did all of this happen? And I might have dropped this word already like 100 times because it's really important, because why explains the things about the commit. We shouldn't have to assume things going in. Oh, you fixed this, you changed something online this, so maybe this bug could have occurred. No, that's not a good way to go. In a way, git blame is actually bad terminology, because git blame, I'm not looking for someone to blame. I want to know why this change is the way it is. I'm not going to assign the bug to the original author of the line on which the bug is now occurring. That's not helpful. I get assigned this issue, so I'm going to fix it. And if you want to use this kind of more positive terminology, you can actually alias the git blame command to git y with the command I've added at the footer of my slide there. So yeah, we need to write down why the change was made and not just what was changed, because I can see that the method was moved or something like that. That's what the diff is for. I can just look through and scroll for the code. But I think this is what my slide and my presentation boils down to. We need to write down why the change was made. Like really, really write it down. I think it's very important to do this. And a way I do this is by using a little git commit format that I'm using as I write my commits. I start off with the scenario, like what brought me to this moment? Not just I got to work one day, but rather this bug occurred. This incident was reported in the error tracker or something like that. And I don't just mean link to the ticket or the issue, because again, systems change and that ticket might not exist 2 or 3 years from now. So write down in the commit why this is happening and why I had to make the change. Some template language you can use here is like when something happened or this error occurred, or one morning I woke up and I thought, yes, I know how to refactor this ugly class that I've been screaming at for like 6 months. Now I know how to make it work or look more nicely. And then I move on to like, how did I solve this problem? And of course, the git diff can help here. It tells us what changed, but not why this particular line has changed in the way it did. Why did I change a class or into 2 classes? Why did I break that up? That kind of stuff is important to explain in this commit. And then I also explain why this solution specifically. This can be as simple as like, hey, I forgot to initialize the class before calling the method. That can be a very simple explanation to go forward, but usually the problem is a little bit more complicated. And then I move on to the alternatives, because these are very important contexts we can add to this commit. Like, why did I go for this particular solution? Because there might have been 10 other ways to do it, but I chose for this one. If I write down which ones I considered, my teammates can also know if I might have missed one, a better solution. Or did I consider that solution, but was I actually running into some technical limitations that made it impossible for me to implement it that way? That kind of information just tells so much more and prevents someone from breaking their head on the same problem I did some like 3 months or 6 months later. The best way, or my favorite way to do this, my favorite reason to do this is actually to prevent this kind of question popping up in a review, because nothing is more annoying than having gone through this process, decided what solution was best, and then have someone in a review say, but did you consider this other way? Yes, I did, but then you have to explain it in the comment, and that information is then lost. So some template language here is like, I consider something, but I couldn't do it, or I wanted to do something else, but I compromised on this solution instead. Cite your sources. Did you find an awesome blog post that was just tailored to your problem and explains how you can fix it in an amazing way? Links to it, but also copy paste into the Git commit the actual important content that helped you resolve this problem, because again, the blog post or Stack Overflow answer might disappear in the future, so it's better to just have it right there in the commit. And finally, the subjects. I've probably started with a subject, which was maybe not the best one, but now that I've internalized this entire process of like, why did I make this change, how did I make it, and what other alternatives did I consider, I can write a more better subject for my commit, because I know all this information now and I can write it down very succinctly. So if all goes well, we've started with this work in progress commit, but eventually we move to something like this. More is better. Just start writing, put as much context in that commit as you can, because that might be relevant sometime from now. You don't know what's relevant then, but you know it now, so write it down. So how do we make pull requests more easy to review? If I have a branch with just one commit, GitHub helps here a lot. It pre-fills everything for me. It just adds the title as the subject as the title, and all the commit content as the description. I just have to press create, assign some of my team members to review it, and I'm done. But if I have multiple commits in this branch and I don't want to split it up, I can actually, GitHub doesn't pre-fill it for me, so I need to do this myself. I copy paste in all the commit messages and the subjects into the description. I add some headings to like differentiate between the commit messages or commits themselves. And then all the information is right there at the top. When someone opens the pull request, they see all that information, they can start reading, and only then switch to the changes tab to see if my code quality is good enough or not. My rule is pull request should only have the content from the commits. If I add any new information for that pull request specifically, that is just lost in the future. The only exception here is maybe a cool screenshot or two. You made a cool feature with some cool design, post that in the description so that the reviewers can see the feature before they've even checked it out. Another way to make reviews more easy is by making smaller pull requests. Because if we have to decide between pull request 123 or 256, I know which one I'm going to go for. The first one just has way too many changes. There's too much going on. I can't scroll through it. My eyes glaze over. I just get bored and approve it, move on. Because this is very difficult to review. There's too much to keep in mind. There are too many changes. Maybe a bug or like 6 have been fixed. So there's just too much to keep in mind here. But if we look at the smaller one, there's usually just one change and one type of context I need to consider to review it. I don't need to go through the whole project to understand this particular fix. So break your larger pull requests, if you have them, into smaller ones. If you found a bug while working on a feature, but it's unrelated to, like, they don't have to ship together, you can just extract it into another pull request, assign reviewers. It can be merged while you're working still on the original feature where you found it. And probably my biggest pet peeve is like presenting a tidy history, because too often I see a history where I'm like, it's too much, I don't understand it. So please start making a more tidy history. If we start off with this kind of development history, which is totally fine, most of my commits are usually also work in progress, and not much better than that originally, but it's not the thing I submit as something to review, because I tidy it up first. If I look at this history, I just get a big question mark with the work in progress one, because sure, it's work in progress, but I have to look at another commit to understand what was actually in progress. Probably the button, and I hope there's more content in this commit, because now I only see the subject. But it kind of explains what's going on. I'm going to add a button for this particular feature. And I'm looking at the merge commit, and I don't understand, was that necessary to like get a bug fix from develop? Did I need it to finish this pull request? I can't tell from this commit alone. Then I move on to the refactor, and it's like, okay, we probably found a better way to make this button, or all the buttons in the system, so we refactored it. That's fine. Could maybe be a separate pull request, but all right. And then after I created my pull request and I let the CI run, I found out that, oh, all the tests were broken, so I crammed all the test fixes in one commit and pushed it. But if I look at this history, the biggest like question mark is going to be like the work in progress. I can't tell on this alone why this commit exists. But if I just look at it like from afar, like in total, I just get a big question mark. Like I get whiplash looking at these commits going back and forth between some developer nonsense like work in progress or merging a remote branch to actually implementing the feature. There's just too much nonsense going around here in this branch. So some rules from me are no work in progress commits, no merge commits, and no fixed test commit, because upon themselves they don't really explain anything. These commits should be part of other commits that actually explain what's going on. So if I see this, I'm going to give it a rejection. I want to see a more tidy history so I can actually review it. How do we do that? Well, we're going to have to do some scary rebasing magic, but it's not actually that scary as it sounds. Because if we just have this kind of history, which we just saw, how can we make that better? Well, we run the git rebase command, but I say it's interactive, so I can tell Git what to actually do, and then just choose the base branch, which I branched off originally. So what do I then tell Git to rebase? Well, I start off with the work in progress commit. I kind of have to. So I'm going to pick that as Git chooses to name it. And then I'm going to merge the merge commit in there, but also the refactor and also some test fixes which were needed after this refactor. And then finally, I'm going to implement the button and then also include the test fixes which were needed for that commit as well. And I've actually broken up the fixed test commit into 2 commits because I don't want a separate commit at the very end to fix them all. I just want those test fixes in the original commits where they broke. So if all goes well, we might have to fix some merge conflicts. We should have a more tidy history that looks like this. We first refactor the button and then added the new button. Alternatively, you could say, well, that's not exactly how it happened in Git. Instead, we first added the button and then refactored it. But now I kind of implemented the button twice in a very short period of time, where I first added it, then refactored it again, and then so I implemented it twice. So what did we learn in this particular talk? We do this for our team, but we also do this for our future selves. We try to communicate better. We try to communicate our changes for like pull requests and git blames. So all this information we add now that we know can be so much more useful in the future. The best motivation ever is to just make things easier for yourself. So if you do this, it will become so much easier for you in the future. So in short, commits should explain why the change was made, but also why this particular implementation was chosen. If you considered any alternatives, write them down, but also then why this solution was better. Why didn't you choose any of those alternatives? And then make small pull requests, of course, so they're easier to review. and created tidy history for the same reason, making them easier to review. So if we do all this, what should happen is we have better reviews because people actually know what they're reviewing, what's going on, why were these changes necessary. And that should just result in faster reviews. And then some months later, when a bug has slipped in through this process, we can use it to faster debug the issue because we know all the information we did back then. It becomes so much easier to debug something or fix a bug if we don't have to make assumptions about how or why the change is made. So your team, like in short, your team, your future selves, your colleagues that haven't even joined yet will thank you for taking the time to write this information down, because they'll just love you for it because you've saved them so much time. They don't have to figure it out all over again. If you're interested about this topic, I've actually written a blog post before I gave this talk about this very same topic. Read it if you want some more information or just want to take a moment to read it instead of watching a talk. If you have any questions, now is the time. I want to thank you all for listening. I'll wait for my MCs.
Tom, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I solemnly swear I'm never going to write a commit with 3 dots in it again.
Okay.
So folks, folks, let's take a moment. Let's give Tom a moment to have a drink. In the meantime, I would like to share with you the results of our 3rd developer dilemma. Deploy once a quarter versus every commit goes into production. And the results are in. 18% of you said deploy once every quarter, and 82% of you said every commit goes to production. So with that said, Tom, I would love to ask you a couple questions. And my first being, how do you feel about semantic commits? I don't know if you're still there, Tom.
Move you into the screen so I could actually see you.
There you go.
All right, semantic commits. Yes. No, I'm not a big fan myself. I know semantic commits is, I think, the prefixes for all the commits and describe what it is it the chores, the features, the docs thing. I think they don't really add as much as they should, I think. I know Ulik, another talk in this conference, actually wrote a blog post specifically about semantic and conventional commits, I think is the alternative, about why this is a not amazing practice. It's like the same thing of just linking to the, or he also made an example of like linking just to GitHub or Jira tickets as the explanation for why the commit was made. I don't think it just communicates enough. We need to add a lot more information, and I can write in the description if it was a bug fix or a chore or docs thing. I need those characters at the beginning of the subject to explain what the actual change is about. And I don't think those prefixes are the best thing we can do there.
Thank you. On the note of characters, here comes a perhaps contentious question.
Okay.
Emoji? Yes, no? In commits?
Sorry, emoji?
Emoji and commit subjects.
No. Like, again, if you're using them as prefixes, I know at AppSignal we also tried to do this for issues and commits sometimes, but we dropped it. It wasn't as useful as we hoped.
Fair enough. Thank you. And how about, is there such a thing as a commit message that is perhaps too long?
Well, if you have to read it, sure. But if you're in this position that you need to read it, there's probably a lot going on there, and you want all that information. If the author thought to make it more short because of readability, they might have left something out. So I prefer the longer version, even if that means I have to read more. Takes a little bit more time, but the time will be won again because I don't have to debug all the things that were omitted.
It's a good point. Good point. All right, I think we got time for 1 or 2 more questions. Here's one from me. The impression that I got, and I think we've all gotten, is that writing effective commits is a skill. So how long do you feel it took you to get to a point where you would say you're proficient at it?
I know I looked up yesterday what I think was maybe my first commit that I started to add a subject, because looking at old AppSignal code from 2012 or 11, I made a lot of commits that had no description. But then somewhere in 2012, I fixed a bug in the Ruby gem and I added more information to it, because I realized that I was doing something very weird that from the diff itself did not explain anything. So then I started to add more information. But I've been spending a lot of time on writing better commits since then. I don't think it's taken 8 years. That would be a lot, but I think 2 or 3 years to really get into this mode where I know what is important and to write better commits, more long commits.
Thank you. And to follow up on that question, do you think that our needs in terms of how commits look will perhaps change in the near or distant future? Would you say you've made it to the end goal of what a, not perfect, but as good as it gets commit message is?
If we follow... You mean if we follow the steps that I just described?
Yes.
I think it's very good if we do this. It could always be better, of course. I don't know. I can't read the future, unfortunately.
Of course.
But I think if we just did this, it would be so much better already.
Excellent. Well, I think that's all I got. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Tom, thank you so much for your incredible talk. We're going to head into a little break now before Allison's talk. But don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. We're coming back. See you soon.